Okay, hello guys. Good evening from here. I hope you guys are doing very fine. Um, I hope you went to church today. I had a beautiful time in church today. So, very quickly, I want to give you guys a gift, and that's if you know how to use it, right? And what is that gift? I really would love to suggest or recommend that the fewer pairs you trade, the better for you, right? And many people like to, move from one pair to another. They like to have a lot of pairs that they are looking at. But you know that if you want to be very detailed, you want to be very clear, right? The fewer pairs you trade, the better. And some people think that maybe when they are trading a pair or two pairs or three pairs, they won't really get, much opportunities. Well, that can be true, but it depends on, the kind of trader that you are. So if you trade like me, if you've been watching my videos, one thing is sure, you would most likely see opportunities in one pair almost every day, right? The fewer pairs, the better. Now, why do I say this? Because with this system of trading, when you have so many pairs you're looking at, you don't really maximize a single pair, right? Many times you come to a pair and then you see that you've missed like three opportunities to take a trade. Why? Because probably you were looking at another pair and then before you could get back there, you know, I believe by showing you what I want to show you today, you will have an understanding of what I mean. So this is NZDJPY, and again we begin with our top-down analysis. This is the weekly time frame, and just by looking at this in a glance, we can see we were going up, right? And then when we look at this area, what do we see? Let me move to the line chart. You can see this is an uptrend here, and then we started breaking structures to the downside, and then we finally broke this structure here to the upside, right? So going back to the candlestick, you can see the very solid bullish candle that broke the structure, giving us the indication that, right, we should be expecting buys in the coming week, and especially when we see this level, right? It was almost reacting from a key level here, right? And so if I take all those drawings out of my chart and we begin to look at what happened on last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to see the opportunities that presented itself. Okay, so like I said, this is the most recent weekly BOS to the upside, right? So we want to see, um let me box this entire previous weekly candle. Going to the daily, what do we see? So we want to look out for the opportunities on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right? Now remember that this is the weekly break of structure, right? So this is Thursday and Friday. Now Monday candle opened and gave us, a push to the downside, and finally it closed bullish, right? So I'm going to take this out of the way. I want us to begin from Monday. Let's see what happened on Monday, right? So we move to the 4 hours to look at what happened on Monday. Now the first H4 candle gave us this candle, right? So it was strongly bearish at some point and then it closed bullish. Yeah, so don't look at the color of the candle, right? We just know that at the end of this candle, lots of buying pressure entered that pushed the price all the way from here down up to this point, right? But then that's just one information. Something very interesting is that, remember this line I drew it from where? From the weekly time frame, right? So this is the weekly key level. Now guess what happened? The price closed just above the weekly key level. Now remember what every key level stands for, right? So this is supposed to be a resistance key level. Why? Because it's an A-shaped key level, right? So A-shaped key levels are resistance key level, meaning that when the price gets to this key level, we expect to see it push price back down, right? So this is the expectation. And then we also expect that if for any reason this price, this level, right, fails to push the price down and it breaks, so we expect that the resistance turns into what? A supporting candle, right? So that's quite easy, right? So the usual thing, when resistance is broken, it turns to a support. When support is broken, it turns to a resistance. So this was a resistance level, an A-shaped key level that was disrespected, broken, and then it should turn to a supporting level, right? So we move back to the H4. Now, like I said, we noticed that the first H4 candle, even though it was strongly bearish, but it closed above that weekly key level. So that alone has given us an insight that, oh, the strong buying guys have entered the market, right? So there's like strong buying pressure. And not just this, after this, what do we see in the next H4 candle? We see a very strong bullish H4 candle. Now, pay attention um, to this, right? Pay attention to this. So, what are our key levels, right? So we have an A-shaped key level, we have a V-shaped key level, and we have either the bearish open close key level or the bullish open close key level. Now we know that the A-shaped key level, right, is used for sells, and then when it is broken it is used for buys. And then we also know that the V-shaped key level, right, is used for V-shape is used for buys. When it is broken, it is used for sells, right? So this is more like an A-shaped key level. You can see it here. Let me just indicate that. You can see the A-shaped key level, and it is used for sells, right? You can see when after the key level was formed, it drove the price down. So the people, when the sellers came in here, they pushed the price down, right? And so whenever it is broken, so you can see here it did this, it sold off here. This is the second place it sold off, and then the third place on the H4, and then it got broken here, right? And so this resistance line has turned into a supporting line, right? So this is more like the basics of key levels, right? Support and resistance, right? So same thing with bearish open close key level. So every bearish open close key level should be used for sales, but when it is broken, what do we expect? We expect that it turns to like a supporting level, right? Beautiful. So like I said, after we got the information we needed from this first candle, and then the second candle gave us a very strong bullish um, candle, right? So all what we have gathered so far, remember where we started from? We started from the weekly, and we noticed that we have the most recent breakout to the upside. That's one. And then when we go to the daily, right, the daily has, it was, of course, as at this day it was still forming, but we are analyzing the price as at when the daily was somewhere here, right? And so what has happened, we had already seen this rejection. We had already seen this rejection, and we have seen that the price is trading above this um, resistance key level that is now acting as a support, especially since we have a single candle here, a single daily candle that is going to be acting as our internal or daily internal liquidity, right? Beautiful. So on the H4, we have seen this candle has closed above the weekly key level, and then we notice that the next candle was strongly bullish, right? Now we begin to look out for areas to buy, and like I told you, this is an open close bearish key level that was broken, and now it has turned to support. And if you, as you can see, this is where we entered for our first buy, especially given that a single candle created liquidity for us, right? A single candle created internal range liquidity for us, right? So this is our first buy here. So this always happening on the Monday, right? On the Monday. So this is our first buy. So we can take from this open close key level. Remember, it is now a resistance level turned into a support. Why? Because of this candle, right? So we're not just picking this because we want to pick it. We are picking it because of the information we gathered from the weekly to the daily, and right now this, right? Beautiful. So let's proceed. Now, where do we look out for our second entry? Remember, if you have watched my other videos, one of the things that we always look out for. So I'm going to take this out of the way, right? I'm going to take this out of the way. So just understand that we have taken one trade, right? So one thing I always look out for is the H4 breakout to the upside. H4 breakout. So either to the upside or to the downside, depending on what our bias is. So if we have a bullish bias, then we're looking for a H4 breakout to the upside, right? And then we got that breakout here, right? So we notice that we have H4 levels here and also here and here, right? And then a single candle, right, broke through all of them, right? And so one of the ideal places to look out for a buy should be any of these levels, right? Any of these levels. Why? Because we have previous resistance level. Remember, these were all A-shaped key levels. So primarily key levels are either support or resistance level, right? So these points, as you can see, from here, when the price got here, it kept taking the prices down, 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 right? And so this was the break, the body break that has told us that all this level has now turned to supporting levels. So all these levels, right, they have now turned into supporting level. So one place where we would have been confident looking for buys should be within this region, right? Beautiful. So all this, remember, happened on the Monday. So on Monday we have taken just one position from where? From here. So let's move over to Tuesday, right? And um, okay, before that, I want to also talk about the risk to reward, right? So of course, because we have analyzed from the higher time frame, we know where to expect to get out from the trade. So let's go back to the weekly to see what the expectation is, right? So this is one area. Remember where we started from, right? We're looking at this breakup structure. So this is another level here where price could play from, could arrive. And here when we go to the candlestick, we also see this area of liquidity, right? We see this area of liquidity, right? Fine. So we have this level, we have this level, we have this level to look out for possible pullbacks, right? Or levels where we will be comfortable taking our take profit, right? Because we know that we are going to be buying. So let's go back to the H4 to continue. I hope you guys are following. I hope you're following. I hope you're following. Okay, so remember these are the three lines I drew for potential pullback levels or profit taking levels, right? So I had to draw this because it's okay, it's ideal if we take our entry here and we expect to come out from any of these levels. So in this case, from this level to um, the first line I drew here from the weekly, remember the first line I drew from the weekly, which is this key level, right? Which is this key level, that's this one. So let me just take this out so that I don't have so much lines on my screen, right? So you can see that this is the first level, right? And so this is a 1 to 7, a 1 to 7. Okay, this is a 1 to 7, right? So but let's assume you just want to do a 1 to 3. Let's assume you only want to do a 1 to 3, right? 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, right? 1 to 3. So let's say you did a 1 to 3. Now you are 3% up, right? That's fine. Okay, so and I was trying to talk about the second ideal place to enter after this breakout to the upside on the H4, and I showed you how we were able to pick out this level. So we basically will be happy to see the price trade back down here, right, to take it up again, right? But then guess what happened? So this is now the second day. So we are done with the first day. This is now the second day. That's Tuesday, right? This is now Tuesday, right? So guess what happened on Tuesday? I hope you can see my drawings. This is on Tuesday, right? This is on Tuesday. Please don't get confused, okay? This is on Tuesday. So while we're expecting the price, at least we get somewhere here. Now we noticed this formation happen. This is the first candle, second candle, right? So more like the three candles CRT popular pattern that most people are familiar with. So we saw that this H4 candle not only swept the low of this bearish H4 candle, but it closed bullish, right? It closed bullish. Now, why should we be waiting for the price to go to get to this point? That's number one question. Number two question, why should I feel confident that okay, this is giving me a signal that the price is about to go up, right? So that's why we always want to look out from the higher time frame, right? So we want to always look to the left side of the chart to see what is happening here. So one thing I noticed is that first there's a fair value gap here. You can see there's a fair value gap here. But when we go to the daily, what do we see? When we go to the daily, what do we see? So you put your line chart, right? So we observe something. We observe that there's a key level here, right? And then I am using the line chart with markers, right? You'll also observe that there's a key level here, right? And these key levels, they are what? They are resistance levels. So this one is an open close bearish key level, which is a resistance level, right? And this other one here, you can see is an A-shaped key level, which is also what, a resistance level. So we have daily resistance level here, and this they prove that they are resistance levels. As you can see how they have been uh, resisting price from getting above this level, right? And also, so we see one resistance, two, three, four, five, and then we see that the first Monday candle did what, broke through. And so after this break, we now notice that the resistance key level has turned into what, a supporting key level. So this is the Tuesday candle that we are trading, anticipating a buy, right? Anticipating a buy now, anticipating a buy, right? Even though we were, remember these three lines we drew where we were waiting, the ideal place we were waiting for the price to get to, right? And again, we also take note that there is another supporting key level that has formed here, right? So this was a resistance key level also broken, right? So with this information that we have key levels from here that were acting as resistance that have been broken now, and now they have turned into supporting key level. And on the H4, at that level, we see this thing form. We see that there is this three candle formation forming here, right? So what does that tell us? It tells us, okay, it's fine to begin to look for buys because of, all the things I have spoken about. So it's fine to begin to look for buys, right? So let me clear some of this drawing because my chart is a little bit messy. So remember, this is our first entry point, right? And these two lines are the key levels that we just marked from the daily. So I'm taking them out, and this is Monday. So I'm going to leave this, right? So this is Monday, this is Tuesday, right? And I'm taking this out because this is that level where we took the first take profit, right? On the weekly, right? On the weekly, right? And just to add to what I explained, now remember this, that weekly key level, right, which is this line I removed. Now it is not a coincidence that when the price got towards it, what happened? We saw this pullback, right? So it's not a coincidence. So this pullback happened because of what, that weekly, this weekly key level, right? So it's a resistance level like what it did here, right? So that was what happened here on the H4, right? On the H4. So that was why when the price got here, we saw some pullback. So when you go to, like, let's say the 30 minutes and you look at the price, you would see that much resistance, right, from this level. So these things, they don't just happen coincidentally, right? Now imagine you're watching 10 pairs at the same time. You may not pick out these details that, that are everything, because these details are everything, right? These little details, they are everything, right? So like I said, we can trade from here. Why? Because this is happening on strong daily supports, and those supports, um remember how we picked them, they were former resistance level that sponsored all these cells. They sponsored all these cells, and then they have broken, they've been broken, and now they are support. So we can count on this, right? So exactly how do we enter? So this is where confirmation entry happens, because you want to wait for this H4 to close first. You want to wait for this H4 to close first. So you want to see that this H4 actually swept the low and closed bullish, and then we take our confirmation entry. So I may not do that here, but confirmation entry from the H4 is around the 15 minutes, right? So if you probably have watched my other videos, you would take note of how I play my confirmation entry. So this is where my entry should enter. So if you go to the line chart, you would always see that break of structure to the upside, and so I won't talk much about it here, because I believe anybody who has been watching my other videos should be able to decode it, right? It's not wise to just say everything, right? It's diligent to, you know, um, do your own studies, and in the process, you know, the Holy Spirit will also open some things to you, right? So this is the this was the first entry. Now this is the second entry. So this is Monday we have entered, and like I said, even if it's a 1 to 3, and this is also Tuesday, right? So from my confirmation entry, I will also get a 1 to, I'll also get a 1 to 3. So this is already 1 to 3 point. So this is 1 to 3. So now we are 6% up, right? We are 6% up. So if we had reached 1 to make 3, reached 1 to make 3, right? So again, if we enter here and let's say we missed here, where's this second place to enter? So we are looking for the H4 breakout, right? We're looking for the breakout to the upside on the H4, right? Remember, this is still on Tuesday. This is still on Tuesday. So if you've watched my some of my videos, right, my entry, my ideal entry, right, should have been on this key level, right? So this is a resistance that is broken that should now turn to support, right? And this candle formed almost perfectly as a single candle liquidity. So probably we expected the next candle to, you know, play from that key level, and but as you can see, we didn't get that opportunity. So it's fine, it's fine. So sometimes you miss out on some opportunities, right? So that's for this one, right? And so let's assume we entered here and we are just taking only this one. So we have our 1 to 3 for the day Tuesday. So um we go to Wednesday. So this is Wednesday, right? Remember, all the while we're confident in the buys. Why? Because we had already done our analysis from the higher time frame, right? So we are now on Wednesday. So what are the opportunities on Wednesday? So this is where Tuesday ended, and then this is we can see that we have a break of structure to the upside here, right? So we have this A-shaped key level, and then we have this candle has broken structure to the upside, right? So telling us that okay, we are pointing upwards, right? Fine. So how do we now enter? So remember that this is a resistance level. Because of this break, it has turned to a support, right? So now, mind you, we are only looking for what? Buying opportunities. Because of all the things I have stated in the past, we are only looking for buying opportunities. So where do you buy from? You buy from supports. Like, this thing is not rocket science, right? We buy from supporting levels and we sell from resistance level, right? So when you look at this, where are supporting levels? Where are the supports? So this is clearly a V-shaped key level that is traditionally used for buys, and this is an open close key level that is also used for what? Buys. Now trust me, after this BOS to the upside, it is not a coincidence that when the price got to these levels, right, to these levels, we started seeing the price go higher. It's no coincidence. Now, what we may not be able to tell, you know, um, with pinpoint accuracy is okay, are we going to be playing from this particular key level, or are we going to be playing from this particular key level? We may not be able to tell that. As you can see, the price didn't get to this last key level, right? But it got to this key level, right? So that's where confirmation entry comes in. That's where confirmation entry comes in, because when this candle forms, let's assume you entered here, right, and you set your SL here, right, and then the price started buying, and then this candle opened, and then the price started trading down, you know, So you should be confident. Why? Because you have two supporting key levels. So it's possible that this candle would have, come to this level and still buy. So if this H4, remember this is the H4, so we have like four H1 candles in it. So if this were to close, come bearish, that means our analysis here or our bias here for that day has changed, right? So we take the loss knowing that it has changed. But because of our bias is pointing, because our bias is still pointing upwards, we are confident that this support should hold, right? Now, what happened here? This candle broke the low of this candle, and then after it swept it, it closed bullish. So this is where we can now confidently use our confirmation entry to enter here, because we have seen that there is a sweep. So we can see that there is a reaction of this key level, and then we see that there's a sweep. That means liquidity has been taken. So we can now confidently take our confirmation entry, right? And trust me, when you look at it, you would also see a 1 to 3 play out here from our confirmation entry, right? So like I said, I don't want to touch so much on the confirmation entry, but now we have 1 to 3 on Monday, 1 to 3 on Tuesday, 1 to 3 on Wednesday, right? So in my previous videos, I have told you guys the power of the H4 time frame. It's very important, right? Of course, all the time frames are important, depending on how you trade and what you are looking out for. But you see, the way I trade, the H4 is very important. Now look at the line chart, right? What do you notice here? You see, we have been breaking structures to the upside consistently on the H4, right? Now, this is the first place where we broke structure to the downside. This is the first BOS to the downside on the H4, right? And so let's look at what happened on Tuesday to give us an insight of whether we would also have been anticipating more buys on Tuesday, or if there would have been a change. So let's look at it. Let's look at it together. So we go back to um, Thursday, sorry, Thursday. Yeah, so this is on Thursday, right? So before this candle printed a red bearish candle. So let's look at what happened on Thursday, right? So this is the last H4 candle on Wednesday, and then the first H4 candle on Thursday was a bearish candle. Now mind you, let's assume we were still looking out for um buying opportunities, right? So let me just take out this and this. Okay, so let's assume we're still looking out for buys. Now this is the most recent H4 breakout, right? Leading into what, Thursday, right? So that means we would have been looking for opportunities to buy from here, right? Beautiful. Now this is the A-shaped key level that took this price down, and it got disrespected here. So we would have been looking for an opportunity to buy here, right? And this is again is where confirmation entry comes in handy, because after this candle, of course, it traded a little bit low but closed strongly, or not strongly per se, but it closed bullish, sweeping the low of the previous H4 candle, right? This is where confirmation entry comes in. The same thing that we did here, right? And also the confirmation entry we did here, right? Now, if I go down to my 15 minutes, you will see that the structure that prints here will not give me an opportunity to enter for a buy. Yeah. So I mean, if you don't really understand the confirmation entry, or let's say if you understand it, you would understand what I mean by that, right? You will see that the structures that forms here, right? Because the confirmation entry is not rocket science. It's just basically this pattern forming on the lower time frames, right? So you would see that that pattern will not form here, you know. And then what do we see? We see that this red candle that should have given us that confirmation it closed bearish. Not just that it closed bearish, it broke this recent um, V shape that is created here, right? That's broken it. So from where we have been coming from, this is the first time we have noticed a bearish break of structure to the downside. And so we pause and ask ourselves, what is sponsoring this break of structure to the downside? Now, when you go to the daily candle, what do you see? We notice that from that place where the price was rejecting from, we had a strong A-shaped key level there, right? So it is no coincidence. Again, I say it is no coincidence that when Wednesday candle got there, it rejected. Thursday candle, where we are currently, is giving us H4 BOS to the downside. It's giving us H4 BOS to the downside, right? I think okay, I'm looking at the time now and some messages coming to my phone. Right, I really would have loved to continue this because I just want to show you that it's very possible for you to stick to even one pair, right? And it will make you study deeper. Because one thing I know for sure in FX is that it's not about how wide your knowledge is, but how deep it is, right? So somebody can trade only one pair or two pairs, and you know, have that focus and clarity of mind and everything, right? Okay, probably I would do another video like this on another pair, and you know, maybe continue with my line of thoughts. But I'm looking at the time and I really want to end this video now because of the messages that are coming in. So thank you so much for your time, and if you gain value, please let me know in the comment section, and let me know if you would like um, to see videos like this. Bye. So thank you so much, and God bless you.